Clarissa, which institution in this province runs the best recycling program?
You mean which municipality?
No, I mean what institution, be it a business, be it a company. I mean, I've read some of your stuff in the past, and I know you're a fan of the beer store. I wonder.
Okay, well, that's the obvious. That's the obvious one. You know, they're just such a big part of Ontario. I never think about them.
What makes them good?
Well, what makes them good is the first thing, and this is from a taxpayer's perspective, is the taxpayers they pay for none of the costs associated with the beer industry collecting back their packaging. So it's pure EPR, pure extended producer responsibility. Those producers, the beer industry, are paying for the costs of recovering all of their packaging, or at least 98% of it. So that's very, very good. They're recycling, 85% of their beer cans. They're recycling most of their cardboard. So that's and they're keeping it clean. So it's going to good end markets.
Why do they have such a high take-up?
They have a high take-up because they have a deposit return system. So there's a financial incentive for people to return it. And deposits work across the board. They always work well. But what is particularly special about the beer industry is that a lot of the brewers share the same bottle. And it's called the industry standard bottle, and it gets refilled 15 times. So, there are tremendous environmental gains from refilling, especially when you're refilling locally, which most of these brewers that are using this bottle are doing. They share the bottle. When they get them back, they have all different labels on them. They wash them, they pull the label off, they put their own label on, and they're reused 15 times.
Now, Kevin, that's an industry-led initiative. Is that something that you're okay with?
The beer store actually is a wonderful example of a deposit return program, and it's a tremendously effective program. And it demonstrates one of the reasons why, when you have the appropriate level of government undertaking these programs, well, in this case it's not government, but it's related to government importantly. It's a monopoly, of course, owned by the private sector, but it's sanctioned by government. That's why the City of Toronto, trying to implement these types of programs, runs into so many difficulties, and why, as Clarissa was mentioning earlier, the benefits of Minister Garretson trying to undertake these programs through Waste Diversion Ontario. Unfortunately, we do have a couple of other programs in place that are being administered by Waste Diversion Ontario that are trying to remove things from landfills, like electronics, for example, and some hazardous products, where they've imposed some new taxes on consumers. And they don't have deposit return programs, so there are important concerns about whether or not Waste Diversion Ontario is as wed to the idea of deposit return programs as we think they should be.
Now, somebody's going to have to help me here with the LCBO, because if I remember right, the LCBO didn't do as good a job as the beer store, and the beer store kind of shamed them into doing it. And are they doing it now? Do they have a deposit program at the LCBO?
There's been a deposit return system for a little over a year. And the beer store acts as the recovery agent, so you bring your LCBO bottles, everything that the LCBO sells, you can bring it to the beer store and you'll get your refund back.
So that's a private sector initiative that is now actually encompassing a public sector organization.
Well, it's basically the LCBO needed someone to take back the container, so they've hired the beer store to do it for 5 years. And the beer store already has the infrastructure in place. They're only adding about 15% additional units because they handle so much already. So they are getting paid a handling fee per unit, and they collect them. And
is it working?
It's working very well. Your average wine bottle, so large glass containers, got recovered at a rate of 77%. And what is most important is that not only the recovery rate is high, but all of that glass is now going into new bottles or into fiberglass, because it is so clean and it's easily going to those end markets.
And that's what you want.
And that's what we want.
That's what we want. Okay.